My name is Chris Murphy. I'm currently the Director of Public Safety for the City of Montgomery, which encompasses the police, fire and rescue, emergency communications, and emergency management agency for the City of Montgomery. And I graduated from Auburn in 1981. I was a senior for several years, but I graduated in 81. 20-something different countries I traveled in, every state in the Union except a couple. Guarded everybody from Pope John Paul to Prime Minister of Ireland on St. Patrick's Day for an Irish kid, and that was pretty cool. And you know, just those kind of things that when you're growing up in Alabama, you have no concept that you would ever be able to do that kind of thing. So it's been a very blessed career, no question. I have to be honest, both my brothers had graduated from the University of Alabama, and I did not want to follow them. I had a cousin that was down there, and I came from Nashville, Tennessee at that time. My parents were living up there, and but just the reputation and had already followed, and I kind of liked the large university with small town atmosphere that Auburn offers. I think I'm somewhat unique. I think a lot of people go to Auburn kind of driven. Either they followed Auburn, their whole family tradition type of thing, or they have a particular curriculum, veterinarian, engineering, something that they're focused on and doing. And I was not. I was not particularly focused when I was a student down there at first. And what Auburn did for me was allowed me to focus. I was actually working at Lipscomb's Drugs, which is no longer there. Lan Lipscomb was my boss, and his daughter, Caroline Lipscomb, was a sorority sister of my at that point, just sorority sister, but my future wife. And she set us up on this blind date, and it was kind of like, the boss's daughter is getting you to do this, but I guess I, of course, went to the Glom and looked her up and did my homework as best I could. And I think we went to a movie, but I think one of the funny stories that even she tells a lot there, I just called her at first, and she was in one of the dorms, and we probably talked on the phone 30, 45 minutes. We both laughed, so we knew right off the bat we shared a good sense of humor. We shared some commonalities, our Christian faith, and a number of things, but she told her sweet mate at the time, said, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "Well, I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what it's going to be like, but I think it's going to be fun." I was in criminal justice. I was in my senior year, but kind of beginning my senior year, and I actually did an internship with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. And the current sheriff, Jay Jones, was one of the first people I rode with, and he was helping me. And Auburn was going through a police chief transition at that point, and I had not met the new chief, but I had an application in. And he took me by in uniform, in Sheriff's Department uniform, and introduced me to the new chief, and it kind of clicked, and he said, "Well, you're sharp, why aren't we going?" So I said, "I don't know, chief." And he hired me soon after that. But that's part of what I was going back to. I didn't enter Auburn knowing that I wanted to be in law enforcement. That was not my original plan. But it let me focus. It let me connect the dots, if you will. And then between the Sheriff's Department and then particularly the Auburn Police Department, it really kind of came together then. And was there a little over 3 years and got my degree, because it took a while to do that, but kind of completed that journey and got into the detective division and saw that I was enjoying that, and then that kind of took me to, my parents were still in Tennessee, returning to Tennessee with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. And then from there I did about 4 years there, and then wanted to continue to move up and have different experiences, and the Secret Service really intrigued me, not only the protection end of what they did, but the criminal investigations that they do. That kind of dual responsibility was exciting for me. I can remember as a young agent, maybe a year or two on the job, getting to go to Ronald Reagan's ranch when he was in office, and but I was way up there, literally sitting on a rock holding an Uzi submachine gun when I heard on my radio that they were riding horses, and he rode up and started talking to me. And it was like, wow, this is the President of the United States. I'm a young kid from Alabama, and it's amazing. But you do constantly do protection, and you typically do a small or mid-sized office. St. Louis was mine. You do a large office. Philadelphia was that. And then a full-time protection assignment, either one of the former presidents or the president or vice president. And I actually was assigned to the Vice Presidential Protective Division. Al Gore was in office at that time, ended up being a shift leader for Second Lady Tipper Gore, and that was my full-time protection. But I've guarded and protected every president from Ronald Reagan through George W. Bush. My absolute biggest highlight was I was special agent in charge for this district, which was Alabama, Mississippi, when I got a call from Washington, D.C. that said the president was going to come to Auburn. And I said, Auburn? And they said, yes. And so I said, wow, cannot believe that. And so here I am, the special agent in charge. It would be ultimately my responsibility for the safe arrival of the president to Auburn. And we landed him in Montgomery and then helicopter to Auburn. But what a treat to take him to my alma mater, to the place, work with the police department that I had started with, and bring the President of the United States in. And then we were under the baseball stadium where he spoke, and all the dignitaries were there, and Governor Riley and Senator Sessions and everybody that's anybody, and they took pictures. And then he's very hyper, and he said, all right, let's go. I'm ready to go on stage. And they said, well, we need to be on stage first, Mr. President. Could you hold just a minute? And so they left, and it ended up being the special agent in charge of his detail, who was a friend of mine, the president, and me in this room by ourselves. And he's walking out, and he turns to me and says, tell me again how they do this War Eagle thing. And I get to teach the President of the United States how to say War Eagle. And of course, as you know, he started his speech that way. And then the picture that's displayed up there, I was telling the staff about what an honor that was, the alma mater. And he signed it to me. And usually it's calligraphy, and they just sign it. But he actually wrote to Chris Murphy, best wishes, War Eagle, George Bush. So if we have a fire, that's probably the first thing I'll take out, just because what an experience as an alumni to be in that unique position. So unique to be a Secret Service agent anyway, but to be in that unique position with the President of the United States at your alma mater. I mean, it's just kind of the best of all worlds.